What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another installment of Off the Bench with Scotty and Corey. I am here today with the one, the only Scotty. How you doing, man?
Oh, brother, I'm doing wonderful. Glad to be back talking NFL football with you. Free agency madness. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get into it, man. What you got for me?
So, dude, today we got a lot to talk about. Uh, let's start off
Yes.
the episode today with, of course, the thing on everyone's mind, uh, the Baltimore Ravens and the Max Crosby and the Trey Hendrickson and the whole thing, man. I mean, what do you think? What do you think's going on? What do you know?
So what I know is this is not the first time that the Baltimore Ravens have pulled such a stunt in free agency or on a trade. I'll let you get into that. I know you got some examples for us. But what I also know is that the Ravens at one point in time desired to, per Eric DaCosta, general manager of the Baltimore Ravens, decided that at one point in time they wanted to have both Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson. Things did not work out. I don't know if they didn't like the thought of giving away two firsts to have Max Crosby. I don't know if they didn't like the thought of having to pay two firsts and $240-ish million in salaries to those two pass rushers. The world may never know. Eric DaCosta covered his tail end really, really well with his press conference, saying he was quote unquote gutted that the deal could not go through, and he was heartbroken. So we may never know. But on that front, it did not happen. They canceled their trade for Max Crosby. They did, however, sign Trey Hendrickson to a $114 million deal over 4 years. Tell me what you have for me, though. Tell us what you have for us on the front of the Baltimore Ravens doing business in what we'll call bad faith like this in the past.
Right. So the Baltimore Ravens are kind of building a name at this point of just locking in big deals and then not capitalizing on them. Uh, it first started back in 1997. Now, I'm sure it might have happened more than this, but this is at least four significant times with big name players at their given respective times that this has happened. Again, 1997 with Brock Marin. It was a contract with the Cowboys safety that was rescinded due to concerns about his shoulder. Again, they backed out of that one. Fast forward almost 20 or a little over 20 years here. We have Ryan Grant, 2018, who had a 4-year, $29 million agreement, and it was voided following a failed physical. We've heard that one before, involving an ankle injury. Now,
One quick quote on the Ryan Grant thing. You can look it up. You can look this up. Ryan Grant, in his 4 years with the then Washington Redskins, missed one game, and it was not for the failed physical ankle that the Baltimore Ravens cited. Per Will Compton, his teammate during those years.
right, and moving forward, only 2 more years. They're starting to get a little bit more antsy here. Michael Brockers had a 3-year, $30 million contract that was canceled after the team had concern regarding his ankle. And now we fast forward to this point in time, the beginning of this week, one and only Max Crosby. The Ravens voided the trade for the defensive end after he failed a physical due to a knee surgery. And there's obviously some speculation going around that. Did they just want to give up? Did they find a way to get Trey Hendrickson for cheaper? Did they find a way to just have this kid who has publicly stated that he wants to play in Baltimore, and they say, hey, we have a kid who you may argue is greater, you may argue he's not, and then we can get him for just money and still keep our 2 picks, or we can go for Max Crosby and lose 2 picks, however have you. And in a business standpoint, it is unfaithful to do such a thing. But if you think about it, there is a guy who has missed 7 games in the last 2 years in Max Crosby. But again, you had made this handshake deal and it fell through, and you can't just back out. It just looks bad on the team.
Absolutely, absolutely, it does. And the what stands out to me as not a front office guy, not an owner, as a fan of the game of football and the integrity that comes along with it. What stands out to me is that it seems since general manager Eric DaCosta has been put in his position that this has been increasingly a thing. Now, there is zero animosity between Max Crosby and the Raiders with them trying to deal him. He says it's just business. He is a Raider. He is ready to play for the black and silver this season, and he is motivated. That's scary for the AFC West. And we'll get into why that's scary for the AFC West toward the end of the episode whenever we recap the 5 teams who have gotten stronger, the 5 teams who have improved the most
Right.
through this first week of free agency. But the the Ravens have made a decision, and I think that it's going to be hard for them to find suitors for trades for this season. It's going to take at least a little while for the taste to wash out of people's mouths. Um, it's it's an indictment on the way that they've done business. Now, it's also you could also see it coming because the Ravens, as an organization, they don't trade first round picks at all. It's been like that for years and years. They just don't trade high draft capital. Um, they don't do crazy antics in business, which to a lot of people seemed like it was too good to be true. Whenever they did make this offer for Max Crosby, um, but that's neither here nor there. The general consensus amongst fans, amongst lower ranking individuals and organizations is you leave a sour taste in people's mouths whenever you make a deal and then you promptly back out of that deal when you get cold feet. Because if you look at Max Crosby's Instagram, he was 2 weeks post crutches hitting it hard on the basketball court. He looks like he is rehabbing fantastic. His doctor says he is rehabbing fine. The soft tissue is healing fine. He has great mobility. His rehab is going fantastic. There is zero reason, and this is per doctors across the NFL. Was he going to pass a game day ready physical? No. But for where he is 8, 9 weeks removed from a meniscus surgery, he looks absolutely incredible and not worthy of failing a physical this early into the process. So, to the outside untrained eye, such as us, my friend, it would seem that the Ravens were simply just operating in bad faith.
Absolutely, and I do agree with you. But from from our standpoint, what would you say? Uh, should they have done better? Should they have waited to see if, well, maybe they can? I Okay. So personally, I think it would have been better off for them to wait to see, well, are we really going to be able to handle this Max Crosby situation, or should we send the deal and hope that we get that if we can't get Trey? Because to me, you don't send the deal at all. If you want Trey Hendrickson, you go after Trey Hendrickson. You don't pull it back up and say you're going to give basically the entire front door to the Raiders to get this guy, and then say, oh well, we actually got the guy we really wanted, and then back out of a deal because of a failed physical. It's the NFL. People get hurt every year. Stars get hurt. Stars bounce back. I mean, it's not uncommon, and no one's gonna pass a physical, 8, 9 weeks after surgery. I mean, come on. I think it was a scapegoat. I really do. no matter what he says, in a press conference, in an interview, on a podcast, this guy, I think he's just covering his own rear end, if I'm being honest. And that's the way it's coming off. That's the way it seems for me. So, that's my 2 cents on it. I think that if you're a good, faithful organization, if you really felt like trying to go after Max Crosby was a reach and you really wanted to get Trey Hendrickson, you just go after Trey Hendrickson. You cut your losses if you don't get him. Maybe next year go after Max Crosby. He would probably be a little bit cheaper uh, than he would have been trying to get him this year. But I don't know. I'm not the owner of the Baltimore Ravens, but I know that it does leave a nasty taste in a fan's mouth, other GM's mouths, other owners' mouths. Like it doesn't look good for them at all.
Right. To close with, you're right. It does not leave a good taste in the mouth of Tom Brady, the uh, the Davis family, the ownership group, the management group of the Las Vegas Raiders. If you want to say, and this is, and by he I mean Eric DaCosta, this is where he covers his tail by saying we wanted both, but the price tag may have been a little too high.
Right.
That's one thing, but the general consensus across the entire NFL was that the Baltimore Ravens were the favorites to land Trey Hendrickson. Period. From the minute he announced he was not re-signing with the Cincinnati Bengals, they were the favorites. The Bengals were never going to tag him. Something along the lines of $46 million for the tag. That's an outrageous price that they were not willing to pay.
And that's one
Washington
year,
did.
correct?
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
that's what I
That
thought.
is a 1 year sign it or don't play for the year uh, type of things.
Excuse me.
They knew they had Trey Hendrickson in their back pocket, and I think they got a little bit greedy whenever Washington also emerged as one of the favorites, as well as the Colts. The Colts also have a wide open checkbook this offseason. They they made
Excuse me.
they made zero bones about opening up the checkbook, did the Colts, and I think that maybe scared the Ravens a little bit, but I think what scared the Ravens more was giving up 2 first round picks, which they never do as an organization, like I said.
Right.
All in all, a bad faith deal. No sour feelings, though, amongst, and this is, I think, is the big part. Raiders ownership and management and Max Crosby, they seem to be close. He seems very ready and motivated. And I think Max Crosby going into his age 29 season is going to be an absolute wrecking ball. So look out for the Western Michigan product all day. Or Eastern Michigan, I'm sorry. He went to Eastern Michigan. Look out for the Eastern Michigan product on Sundays this coming fall because he is going to wreck the NFL.
I mean, nothing. There's nothing. Me personally, as someone who played sports, who loves the game of football, basketball, um, there's nothing that gets you fired up like what happened to him. And I hope he comes into the league and records a heck of a year, like 16, 17, 18 sacks this year. I mean, that would fire me up to know that, oh, well, this guy, they really didn't even want me. So let me show them why they made the mistake. Um, so I mean, to me, as a competitor, as someone who loves to compete, I mean, that right there that would be the fire um, that done it. So anyway, if you are finished with the Baltimore uh, Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby ordeal, uh, I'm gonna move on to do the Washington. Uh, if you are finished with that segment.
Yes, yeah. Let's move
Absolutely.
on. Let's head into who the Washington Commanders have decided to let walk into free agency.
Absolutely, and it's quite a long list. Washington decided these people were no longer a fit for the organization. I'm just going to read through the list here of the men who, again, Washington deemed not commander worthy. We got quarterback Jeff Driscoll. I believe he was a third string anyway. We have wide receivers Debo Samuel, Noah Brown, Chris Moore, and Robbie Chosen. We have tight end Zach Ertz. We have running backs Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, and Chase Edmonds. We have two tackles in George Fant and Lucas Niang. We have linebacker Bobby Wagner, edge rusher Preston Smith, linebacker Von Miller, two defensive tackles Eddie Goldman and Sheldon Day, two cornerbacks Noah Igbenogany and Antonio Hamilton, and finally we have defensive end Jalen Holmes. Now there is one restricted free agent, and that is Tyree Jackson. Um, and then we have two commanders that were released. Uh, just basically had a contract and said, hey, we don't feel that you are the cut for the team, and we actually released them. It wasn't that we didn't want to sign them back; we just released them altogether. And that is Tyler Biotish, which you and I spoke about a lot on the last episode of Off the Bench. If you guys haven't seen that episode, please go back, watch it. It is a great one. And another guy we touched on, Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback, and he had a max of 18.5 million in our cap savings. So we cut him, saved a lot of money. He didn't play as great as they did 2024, so we felt that wasn't a good fit. Um, and then to move on to the Commanders who found another team, we have running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. He signed a 2-year deal worth up to $12 million by the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have the edge rusher Jacob Martin, who signed another 2-year deal for $11 million with the Tennessee Titans. We have cornerback Jonathan Jones, who signed a 1-year deal with the Eagles, and a quarterback Josh Johnson, who signed with the Bengals today, around 10:46 today via Adam Schefter. Um, so what do you think, man? Do you think these are good cuts? Do you think that they're paying attention to what's going on in the locker rooms, field, the whole thing?
I do. I think that having two fresh coordinators like Washington has, and I think the pressure of having the oldest roster in the NFL last season has combined to put us where we are today, and that is letting 22 players roughly walk out of the organization as either cuts or unrestricted free agents, and two extras leaving via um, via new contracts. So what I now four. It was two for our last episode. It is now four. Um, I like the moves to let a lot of these older guys go. I know that personally, Bobby Wagner and Von Miller, growing up in the era of football that I did, watching those men wreak havoc on the front seven for as long as they have, that it makes you proud to have had them on your roster. But Bobby's 35 years old, Von 36 years old. They are not football prime anymore. I
Absolutely.
think that if they were to be offered, and the same thing for Zach Ertz at 34, coming off of a major knee injury, I think if they were offered roles in, let's say, like quality control or position coaches,
Right.
I could see that. If they were to hang them up and then they needed to coach the positions, I would 100% get that. As far as having them on the football team, it no longer makes sense. This team has to get younger. It has to get faster. It has to play with intensity. That is the style of system you will see from Durante Jones, our new defensive coordinator, coming out of a Brian Flores defense. Everybody knows when Flores was in Miami, his time with Minnesota since in the defensive coordinator role. Those are the keys. there are a couple of guys that I feel like if it gets late into free agency and we still have some depth issues, that we may bring a couple of those guys back. Namely, Noah Igbenogany. I feel like Noah I played really well in his 2 years in Washington. He didn't get put in a lot of great situations. He got moved around the field a lot, took snaps at slot or at a nickel cornerback. He took snaps outside with injuries. He even took snaps at safety. He is best suited whenever he is playing soft coverage off the ball as the nickel. That's where he thrives. And in 2024, if you watch his tape when he was playing that role, he does play that role well. And Geronte Jones has a notoriety of bringing out the absolute best in aggressive secondary players. So maybe he gets another shot later on in free agency. But the rest of these names walking into free agency, I completely get. Now, one name that I really love who has found another team that I think you will also come to love with this coming season, just knowing who he is as a person and how much of a dog he is out of the backfield. Running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. reunites with his college offensive coordinator, head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen. Those guys were together at UK. That's a good little tidbit for you. Um, I think you'll see him have a breakout season. He is an absolute dog. He can run downhill. He has surprisingly soft hands, given that he does not catch the ball a lot in his career. He can do it, and he can do it well. And I think being back with Liam Cohen, you're going to see him be utilized. Um, this is one that I don't particularly agree with Washington not making an offer on. But once we get into the new guys coming into the Washington Commanders building, we'll we'll make a little more of an understanding out of it.
Right.
And Jacob Martin. Jacob Martin led the team in sacks last season. You love to see him find a new home, especially with the quality of players that they have brought in at his position. It's nice to see him find a place to get a chance with the Tennessee Titans, who also, by the way, rolled out a new logo. Beautiful logo. If you guys haven't seen it, it's pretty sweet. I know a lot of people aren't loving it right now. It's gonna grow on people. It looks really really nice. But what are your thoughts on departures to other teams?
Like you said, I like the guys finding a new contract, not only because of who they are and who they were in Washington, but because it's just good to see some guys finding a good job, finding a place to fit in somewhere, a second chance, if you will, or third chance for some of these guys. I know that for the Bengals, signing Josh Johnson. He actually started or he played for them during the 2013 season. It has been 13 years since that season, so it's nice to see him go back to somewhere he's familiar. Um,
Yes, his 22nd chance in the NFL.
yeah, he's been here. He's been here a while. Um, but yeah, Jacob Martin, he's a good guy, especially for him to have leading the sacks for us. Um, and then of course C-Rod, man, it sucks to see that one go. He fights all the time to get down the field. He never stops. But again, as I said in the last one, I'm a big Bill fan. Um, Bill's a dog. He for something that looks like he can only make a couple yards, he somehow finds a way to squeeze through a few more. He knows how to chop his feet, knows how to keep going. So I really like Bill Krosky, Merritt, and so in a sense, I can understand it. But as you said, when we get into the signings, a lot of these, we'll call it bumps to, a Commanders fan's pride here. We'll kind of see them make sense. Some of these other guys that were released, like you said, in the era that we grew up watching football, Bobby Wagner, Von Miller, those two guys I watched quite a bit growing up, and if it even falls back onto whenever we picked up Adrian Peterson, we both know my dad would have absolutely loved that. He would have flipped for that one. So Uh, anyway, but that I mean, they're getting old. They're not football. They're not the same guys we watched 5, 10, 15 years ago. So, but yeah, I understand. Now for the guys we released, the only one I don't understand is Tyler Biotish. He did really well. He did allow a couple of sacks, but that's gonna happen. But Marshawn Lattimore, I'm okay with that one. That one doesn't hurt me nearly as much as some of the other guys that we let go because of age. But I wasn't a big fan of Marshawn Lattimore. He caused problems already. I wasn't a big fan of him when he came from the Saints. So just don't like that he doesn't carry himself professionally. Like I know it's a sport, I know it's a contact sport. There's pride. You're gonna get mad at somebody. That's just contact sports. But having him, he's just an extra aggressive towards certain people like Mike Evans, which it happens. But I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of him. He played really good for the 2024 season. Last year, I could have threw a mug through the TV watching him play. However, that's what I have to think about it.
Absolutely. And for those of who are unaware of the deep-seated reason behind Marshawn Lattimore's underwhelming stint and departure from the Washington Commanders organization, it stems from both health issues. Having played in the 24 games that he was eligible to play for the Washington Commanders, he only played in 14 of them. So he obviously he tore his ACL last season against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a tragic injury you don't want, especially having got his first interception of the season in that game. It looked like it was turning around. He was playing good football in that game. It looked like he was finally turning a corner, and he tore his ACL in that contest. Fast forward to January, he gets arrested on a gun charge in his home area of Cleveland, and I think with no guaranteed money left, and huge cap savings looming, and the call for a younger roster, I think everybody saw the writing on the wall. That was kind of the end of his time in Washington. However, Tyler Biotish was a big thing. A lot of people are unsure of which way the Commanders are going to go as far as the position of center. The fun thing about it is there's a very deep center class in this draft. None of them are like super high rated. You're not going to see a center go in the first round of this year's NFL draft. But there are a lot of good kids out there from a lot of good schools. So I think just we're 4 months early from training camp, but I think Washington probably picks up a day three center in the NFL draft, and they may sign a veteran center off of the street, and you may see a competition at training camp with Nick Allegretti, an incumbent depth piece on that line already. However, his natural position in high school and college were center, transitioned to guard in the NFL, has played there for the vast majority of his time in the NFL, but is naturally a center. I think you see a Nick Allegretti and the rookie competing for that center job. As for Tyler Biotish, he lands on his feet, 3 years, $30 million out in Los Angeles with the Chargers. You love to see that. Everybody knows I have a soft spot for my boy, the Oregon Duck, Justin Herbert. Love that kid, love that cat. Uh, you just you love to see him getting some protection in the center of the line. He has those dominant tackles, Joe Alt, Sean Slater. Those guys are baller. Getting some help for him in the middle of the line. Hopefully the badass Tyler Biotish goes out there and he plays well. I think his detriment with the Washington Commanders was performances early in the season and in crunch time when it counts. As you alluded to, he did give up a few sacks this season. They were in very important situations. One of which was the sack that tweaked Jaden Daniels' knee week 2 versus the Packers. Uh, 1.4 seconds was the time of ball possession from snap to sack. up the middle. TB just missed his assignment. I don't think it left a good taste in the coaching staff's mouth. Um, and then later on in the season, it was a couple of snaps. It was one of which I want to say was against Dallas on Christmas Day. Got Marcus Mariota shaken up as well. Pretty well the same thing. Odigizua up the middle, blew right past him, just a straight missed assignment. I don't know if he was seeing ghosts. I don't know if it was then offensive line coach Bobby Johnson. I'm not 100% sure what exactly it was, but it was an amalgamation of things that resulted in both BJ and Tyler Biotish no longer being with the team.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And before we segue on further, for those of you that are watching, now this picture is from TennesseeTitans.com. But this the logo that you are speaking on?
That is their new Houston Oilers colored color scheme. They have new uniforms, that new logo. They also did a render of the projected Nissan Stadium that's supposed to open next year, and it is beautiful. If you guys have not seen it, check it out. I will also link it to all of your off the bench socials, so that way you guys can check that out for your viewing pleasure. It is beautiful. You love to see the Titans making the moves that they're making. Um, it's awesome.
Absolutely, dude.
But moving on, what do you have next for us?
Man, I just want to dive into the signings now. So we've went through all of their releases, all of their free, all our all the guys they let go, all the guys who found new teams, all the guys who ultimately just are not with the Commanders any longer. I kind of want to segue just a little bit, just a quick talk about who the Commanders, after all the negative we just talked about, who the Commanders thought burgundy and gold material right there. This is the Commanders re-signing these players. We have punter Tressway. We love to see that. He re-signed for
Longest
one
tenured
year.
commander.
He
Longest
re-signed
tenured
for a
commander going
year.
into his 13th team with 13 year with the team.
He look, Tressway has a soft spot in my heart. He gave up the number 5, as you guys know, in 2024 for Jaden Daniels and took on the number 10. Um, then we re-signed guard slash tackle Andrew Wiley. Signed him 2 years, $6.65 million deal. And then we have offensive lineman Nick Allegretti, who signed a new 2-year deal. Uh, we have Dietrich Wise Jr. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same guy who he had an injury last year. Is that correct?
Correct. Tore his Achilles in week 4.
Yeah.
He has since said that the Achilles feels really good, and I'm excited about seeing him because he was wreaking havoc this first 4 weeks of the
He
season.
did really well. When
Continued.
he went down, dude, it was like you shot the dog. um,
Exactly.
because everybody, I mean, if you guys aren't football fans and you guys just happen to stumble upon a great defense makes up for a lacking offense. And the classic saying, defense wins ball games. The other team can't win if they can't score. So moving on, we re-signed a defensive tackle, Shy Tuttle. We re-signed him for a year. Defensive end Drake Jackson re-signed for a year. Kicker Jake Moody, he's not getting tenured, but we re-signed him for a year. Um, we have wide receiver Traylon Burks, who is that number 13?
He is, yes.
That's
Incredible
the guy.
one-handed
The
catch with broken fingers against the
Yep,
Denver Broncos over Riley Moss. Yes.
the viral clip that everyone has seen. Um, that's him. He resigned for 1 year, up to $4 million, and then the big one. Laramie Tunsil had an extension onto his contract, a 2-year, $60.2 million extension. We love to see him. Did great last year. We even paired him up alongside um, the rookie.
Josh Connerly. Josh Connerly
Yes,
Jr. out of Oregon.
yeah. Uh, he did really well. I think he's a great addition to the team. And then obviously we re-signed Marcus Mariota, 1 year, $7 million. It's worth up to 11 million with some uh, incentives which hopefully we just have to pay him 7 because if we're paying him the incentives, that means Jaden's not playing, and we don't want to see that. We also talked a lot about him in our last episode, so if you want to hear more about that, that signing and some other signings, please go back and watch that one. We also re-signed offensive tackle Trent Scott for a year and left guard Chris Paul for a year. Now, what do you think about the re-signings? Do you think these are well earned?
I do. I think the retention, especially along the offensive line, extending Laramie Tunsil, extending Nick Allegretti, extending Andrew Wiley, those guys, especially in the absence of Sam Cosme, those guys played such a pivotal role in keeping that offensive line continuity for the second year. And right even on to Trent Scott. Fun fact: Trent Scott caught Jaden Daniels' very first touchdown pass against Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football in Week 3 of the 2024 season. So we love Jaden Daniels' number one target, Trent Scott. Got to give the man some love. If you listen to the press conferences, and I'll get into the other I'll get into the other resignings and retention in just a second. But if you listen to the press conference of all of these guys, what they want to do is create continuity and contribute to the team and keeping Jaden Daniels, keeping that beautiful number 5 clean. That is the sole goal of every one of Laramie Tunsil, Nick Allegretti, Andrew Wiley, Trent Scott. Those guys, their only purpose is to see 5 have enough time to get rid of the ball. I love that. Retaining some of those defensive players, Dietrich Wise, you love to see that. I feel like he never really got going the way he could have, and he is a wrecker. And with a proposed 3-4 defense, the way that they're building this roster, it seems a lot like there's going to be a 3-4-4-3 hybrid defense in Washington this season with Durante Jones. He can wreck from the inside. He can wreck from the outside. He can play 3, 5, 6, 9. He can play basically every position along the defensive front, which makes it very versatile. Drake Jackson, the same. You'll see him come a little more out of the 6 or the 9, or even potentially an outside linebacker position. Long, fast, great hands. You like to see that, especially with him being injured when he was acquired and not really getting up to speed. He has an entire offseason to get healthy. We'll see a lot more of him. I love these re-signings. I think these are the guys that they look at and they're like, Commander, you're a dog. You want to do the things. You can excel in your position based on what you've showed us in tape before you got here. So I personally, these are the guys that if I was in GM mode on Madden, these are the guys that I'm re-signing.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. And like you say, we're not general managers or anything like that. And but again, if in Madden they're not retiring, they're coming back. You know what I mean? So, uh, but moving forward, um, how about you break us down the things that have made the last two subjects really come together, and that is the free agency signings.
Oh my God, I've lived for this. I have been a PFF nut for the past 96, 108 or so hours. I have lived on Twitter and Pro Football Focus, breaking down the guys that have been brought into this team. We will start just a real quick synopsis of who we broke down the signings of on our Tuesday episode. That is Adafe Owe getting his 4-year, $100 million deal. That is Leo Chenal getting his 3-year, $24.75 million deal. That is Amik Robertson getting his 2-year, $16 million deal. And that is our guy Tim Settle Jr. coming back to Washington on a 3-year, $24 million deal. We love to see those guys. Now let's break down some of these newer additions. And as much as I hated to see Chris Rodriguez go, the two guys that have been signed to that running back room to spell him and Jeremy McNichols and the later parts of the season, Chase Edmonds, Rashad White, who has had a stellar career. Fun fact: played with Jaden Daniels at Arizona State in 2019, so he's familiar with five, loves five. They have a great relationship. He is what I think the Commanders' defense or Commanders' offense was really missing from the backfield, and he has 205 career catches out of the backfield. He did not record in 132 touches last season a single fumble, and out of 42 targets, a single drop. Consistency with his hands, I think a guy like Rashad White coming in, being familiar with the style of offense that's going to be ran here, being familiar with the quarterback, and having 5 years under his belt in the NFL is going to make a world of difference on Bill because he can teach Bill consistency. And you love to see that, as well as another new face in that running back room, Jerome Ford, who has had a stellar career in what limited touches he does get. Um, can break huge plays. We saw him do it twice against the Bengals and Chiefs each last season for the Cleveland Browns. I think that constructing the offensive backfield, excuse me, that they have, it is better than the day one offensive backfield than what they had last year, Austin Eckler included. I think Rashad White does everything that Austin Eckler does: pass protection, heavy run blocking, catching the ball out of the backfield. He does it all as well or better, and he's 4 years younger. That makes a world of difference. He will start the season at 27 versus X starting the season at 31. You also love to see Jerome Ford because he is both power and speed, which you also see with Bill. You can also see that with Shad. This is a three-headed monster in that backfield that I think if he is there at pick number 7 will complement perfectly with running back out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, but we will get into that as we get closer to the draft. But as it stands, this running back room is a competitive running back room. There's solid hands, there's lack of turnover, which is what you really, really want from your running backs, and there is youth and speed. I like this signing of Rashad White and Jerome Ford. Moving on, we have another defensive end prospect that was signed, Kaylavon Chason. Initially with the Raiders, was with the Pats last year on a 1-year prove it deal. Proved it. Um, Proved it to a better degree than what he had. He had 12 and a half in his 2 years combined before that, 12 and a half sacks in his 2 years combined before last season. Came out strong in only 54% of defensive snaps for the Patriots and recorded 7.5 sacks. That is good defensive rotational depth. You may He may see a lot of starts, especially if one of the big three pass rushers is not available in the NFL draft. You may see Kaylavon Chason's name a lot down in the trenches for Washington. My personal favorite addition to this offense this offseason so far, tight end Chig Okonkwo from the Tennessee Titans. If you watched his Next Man Up interview with Brian Colbert Jr., he is motivated. He felt, without saying it, he felt underutilized. He felt a little maligned by the Tennessee Titans offensive staff and the way that they used him. He has excellent footwork, soft hands. He runs, I want to say he ran a 4.53 as a tight end. 6'3", 250 pounds. Can move. He's extremely graceful. You can even play him as a big wide receiver, run him out of the slot, get him in across the middle of the field. You can send him vertical. You can run him on a tight end screen, and he's going to get you yards. Led the NFL in yak for tight ends last season at 6.2 yards after the catch.
And you guys, just
This,
before he continues on with Chigo Conquo, if you guys go back and you watch the last episode, you will hear the discussion on tight ends as who I thought, we might end up picking up and maybe we'll draft a guy. Nah, Scotty said, I think we should go for Chiga Conquo, along with a couple other guys that he will mention here in a few seconds in that last episode, just as proof. Um, and here we are. They picked him. I mean, just great GM skills from the young man over there. But anyway, continue on. Continue on.
like I said, y'all, I've been living on Pro Football Focus since the Super Bowl, really. I have been looking at the way that David Blau has been in offenses. I listened to his incumbent interview for his introduction as offensive coordinator, and the same thing for Durante Jones. I looked at what his defense looked like with Brian Flores as his DC over in Minnesota when he was just defensive backs coach, and I've spent a lot of time invested in what I think would be guys who fit that scheme. And Chigakonkwo was at the top of my list, above Isaiah Likely, um, as the number one tight end on the market. Based on what we already have on the roster, Ben Sinnott, fantastic blocking tight end with soft hands. John Bates, the best run blocking tight end in the NFL. Argue with the wall. There is nobody better. This makes the most sense from a Washington Commander standpoint to sign Chigo Conquo, and I think it also alleviates the pressure to find a wide receiver three. Wide receiver two is obviously a huge need still. We have Terry. Um, my next bit will be the two wide receivers that we have signed to fill out the wide receiver room. Um, but Chigakonkwo is a huge move here and on a stellar deal. 3 years, $30 million. Um, you love to see guys like that commit. Now, speaking of the wide receiver room, we get an old familiar face back. Spent his first 4 years here in Washington. Went down to Jacksonville for a season. Had a lot of success. De'Ami Brown out of North Carolina was best friends with our good friend Sam Howell, who is now with the Dallas Cowboys. But
Rip.
provided a lot to the playoff run. Was actually Washington's leading receiver during the playoff run of 2024. Was absolutely stellar. I think he had like 14 catches, 229 yards, and a touchdown against the Buccaneers in that playoffs from 2024, where they made the run to the NFC Championship game. So he is huge. Do I think that he is number two on the depth chart? No. I think that he and Van Jefferson, the other free agent wide receiver signing, are bodies. I think that if the Brandon Ayuk situation doesn't come to fruition, if the wide receiver that they want is not available in the draft, then I think that they make a play for a viable number two, perhaps Jawan Jennings, which I would honestly be on the phone right now with Jennings Management Company, get his agent on the phone, get him into Washington. But I like these guys because they are better than Chris Moore and Robbie Chosen. You get proven wide receivers in De'Ami Brown with his playoff performance. He has worked on his drops. He does still have to work on the fumbling issue just a little bit. But Van Jefferson, now a two-time Super Bowl champion, one with the Rams, where he actually had to leave the Super Bowl celebration to be with his wife, who was giving birth in LA the year the Rams beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl, and one as a reserve. So, I like the experience that Van Jefferson brings. I like the continuity with Jaden Daniels that De'Ami Brown brings. That is huge, but we're not going to harp on that too much. We're going to move back to the defensive side of the ball. And my sleeper pick, I feel like he was the second best safety in this year's free agent class, and I think he was the best one for Washington's fit, and that is former Indianapolis Colts safety Nick Cross, who was Chico Conquo's college teammate over here in the University of Maryland. Go Terps. This is huge because he is big. He's 6 feet 215. He is fast, 4.3, 440, and he has a nose for run tackling. Which, if you remember all season, if Lord forbid the running backs got to the secondary level, Will Harris and Quan Martin and Jeremy Reeves and Percy Butler, they were missing tackles left, right, and center. You don't get that with Nick Cross. He has one missed tackle in the past 3 years on run plays, and he had the most run stuffs among safeties and the most run tackles among safeties, 10 and 56 respectively. He is a dog. He also has 4 career interceptions, so he is no slouch to taking the ball away. You love to see that. And here's the big thing: he's only 24 years old on a team friendly deal, 2 years, $14 million. I love to see this. Now, here is, I think, another sleeper pick on that defensive side of the ball. A former defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers, who, when he was there, Adam Peters, our general manager, was assistant GM to John Lynch. And former Kansas City Chief, where he has 2 Super Bowls alongside Leo Chenal. Charles Omenihu, defensive end. Fantastic depth piece, 1 year deal, $7 million, I believe is the term.
It is, yes.
But long body, fast, played well. Played well and coming off of an ACL injury in January of 2024. I like this signing because he says he is healthy. He says he feels good. He can bend the corner again, and he is excellent at situational pass rushing. This to me signals that Adam Peters was serious in the season ending press conference that he had with Dan Quinn, where they both said that the goal this offseason is to get younger, get faster, and get more aggressive. Charles Omenihu, along with most of the players on the defensive side of the ball that they have signed, fits that bill. So, to me, this is a hugely impactful free agent class to this point. I think a wide receiver, and maybe if you nail down a corner like Martin Emerson Jr., who is a fantastic off the ball or in press cornerback, I feel like we are 2 players away from being able to truly take best player available in the NFL draft are the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, dude. Like you said, a lot of this it's straight and to the point. Um, they have found what their weaknesses are, went straight for them. Like you said, they wanted to get younger. They've got younger. They're no longer the oldest team in the league by far. Couple of guys, I like the Rashad White and the Jerome Ford picks because it takes a lot of pressure off of Bill. I also like bringing back De'Ami Brown. He did really well in the 2024 season. So, do I think he's a number two, number three, he might be a number four kind of guy, bringing in to kind of throw the house, or even like to release someone who's tired. He is a really good receiver, and he was in the 2024 season with us as well. So, we'd love to have him back. Love to have his abilities there. He's fast. He's a sure catch. Um, Again, I love Chigo Okonkwo. He's tall. He's quick, especially for his weight. So I like it. I think we are in the top five for the best uh, free agency. And again, they went out and they got exactly what they wanted done. grab a few more guys and actually go for get to a point where we're not hoping in the draft that we get someone. Get to the draft and find the best pick. Whoever's rated number 7, take that guy. You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts on it. Um, I'm gonna move on to the who the ESPN has for the top 5 in the league for free agency. Who got better as far as ESPN's concerned? So these are the 5 teams who ESPN says, oh, these teams have improved the most. At number 1, we have the Carolina Panthers. Their best signing was Jalen Phillips, linebacker, and their most underrated signing was Devin Lloyd, another linebacker. Um, their other moves were they signed offensive tackle Rasheed Walker from the Packers, quarterback Kenny Pickett, uh, center Luke Fortner, and wide receiver John Mitchie III. And there's coming in at number 2 is the Kansas City Chiefs. Their best signing is Kenneth Walker III, the guy who just won a Super Bowl. And I did find out that the Seahawks, I believe, uh, didn't want to bring him back for whatever reason. I did do a little bit of looking up on that, but they got him at 3 years, 43.05 million dollars, which made him the highest paid free agent running back of all time. Um, their most underrated signing was I'm gonna mess this up. Uh, Kiaris Tonga. He's a defensive tackle.
Nailed it.
Um, their other moves was they re-signed Travis Kelsey, obviously. They signed safety Alahi Gilman. That is their 2 big ones. They lost a few people, no one they really cared about. Other than I couldn't understand why they lost or why they let Leo Chenal go. Isaiah Pacheco, which there was a lot of controversy around them letting Isaiah Pacheco go. You just signed Kenneth Walker. You don't need Isaiah Pacheco. Grab a couple of guys who can take a little bit of heat off of Kenneth and let Kenneth work. Coming at number 3, we have the New England Patriots. Their best signing was Romeo Dobbs, who was stolen from us, by the way. We almost sent the entire checkbook at this man, and he would rather play in New England. So they
He's
took
used to the
him.
snow, is what it is.
Yeah, they took him to replace Stefon Diggs, which you just talked about is another free agent who's kind of hoping we get. Um, their most underrated is Reggie Gilman, who's a fullback. The other moves signed Draymond Jones, he's an edge rusher, safety Kevin Yard III, and guard Elijah Vera Tucker. Now, a couple of big names there on the defense. If you guys watched the Super Bowl, their defense did pretty well, I thought, in the Super Bowl. Now, granted, towards the end, kind of couldn't get much going. I think the offense was the real trouble there. Coming in at number 4, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who their best signing, which was actually a trade, was Michael Pittman Jr. Um, they got a strong wide receiver too for just a late round pick. Um, the Steelers then signed him to a 3-year, $59 million extension. Their most underrated was Jamal Dean as a cornerback. Um, they got they also picked up running back Rico Dowdle, sorry, uh, safety Jaquan Brisker, and safety Darnell Savage. Now, the last coming in at number 5, their best signing was Mike Evans, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. He, I think he was what 5th in most receiving yards for an organization in the something like that. Um, but now he starts his new chapter with the 49ers. Their most underrated signing was Vidarian Lowe, which is an offensive tackle. Um, kind of did this just in case something happens with Trent Williams' contract situation, or and case he decides to get hurt or retire. Um, they also traded for defensive tackle Osa Odigizua, which we love to hear because we ain't got to play him twice a year now. They also signed linebacker Dre Greenlaw from the Broncos. Now, that is the top five via ESPN. Now, I told you this before we started this stream. We had a little chat about it. I said, Scotty, this is what ESPN says. And you chuckled, you giggled,
Allow me to
you laughed about it.
allow me to allow me to make an amendment before we jump into this, because I think the Jets had a better first week of free agency than the New England Patriots did. Allow me to make that caveat. Allow me to make that caveat. They signed some ballers. So, but continue. But continue.
So you thought this was the funniest thing you've heard in your 30 some years of living. Now, tell me, what do you think is the top five uh, best improvement teams through free agency so far?
In no particular order, I think that the five teams who have had far and away the best free agency in the NFL are the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Washington Commanders, the New York Jets, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think, in no particular order, you can shuffle the deck. The Raiders have signed dogs. The Tennessee Titans have thrown the bag at anybody who is willing to listen to the front office in Tennessee. They have signed one of everything. Stars all around they have a completely rebuilt defense. They have weapons on offense. A name particularly that I love to see come out of the NFC East, Wandale Robinson. Now wide receiver one down there for Cam Ward in Nashville. You'll love to see it. Get that guy the hell up out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Raiders, I think, even with the debacle, finding a way to sign all of their free agents and to remain under the cap number with Max Crosby's $30 million cap hit, that is a dangerous organization. They have added some pieces. The Raiders are sleepers in the AFC West. And I don't think they finished third or fourth. I do not. I think they contend with the Chiefs. They very heavily contend with the Chargers. I write it down, March 14th, 2026. Scotty says the Raiders walk all over the Broncos in both meetings next season.
Yeah, I mean, they picked up absolute playmakers. Uh, just the epitome of football is what they've done, and still have enough money that even after the Baltimore Ravens debacle, they can still keep Max Crosby, and that is huge. So they didn't lose their big playmaker on defense, and like I said, he is probably going to have a wonderful year, if not a record year, because nothing would piss me off more than being basically told I'm not good enough. Um, so
Absolutely.
I absolutely see that them walking all over everybody on that side.
Yes. We will segue the Commanders. We've obviously talked in depth about how they have Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, the front office, Lance Newmark, the scouting department. Those guys have flipped the organization complete 180, way younger, way faster, way more aggressive. I think that warrants them being in the top five of this list. The Jets. Now, the Jets, here's the caveat to the Jets free agency. They have gone out and they have added veterans. And when I say veterans, guys who have played 7 years and up in the National Football League. They are better. They are 100% better. But does it have a life expectancy? That's not the question. That was not the question. The question is who has improved their team the most? The top five teams. The New York Jets have had a killer first week of free agency. They have signed dog after dog. A couple of these guys I was hoping were coming to Washington. Not the case. They end up in Rutherford. They're They're going to make waves. The Jets, I don't think, finish last in the AFC East. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, a very quiet free agency. They have not done a whole bunch. Their splash was trading for Michael Pittman, and you can't really even call it a splash. They traded a sixth and got a seventh in return, and got a solid wide receiver to play alongside DK Metcalf in that offense. But to look at the defensive side, getting dudes like Jaquan Brisker and Darnell Savage and signing Rico Dowdle to replace Kenneth Gainwell, who went down to Tampa Bay. Rico Dowdle said in his introductory press conference that he had the Panthers game circled. Now, he said that this past season for the Panthers about the Dallas Cowboys went down to Dallas and put 239 and a tutty on the board. The Panthers did not have the same defense as the Dallas Cowboys do, and the Steelers definitely have a better offensive line than the Panthers did last season. I look for him to get close to breaking Adrian Peterson's single game record against the Carolina Panthers. With their boosted defense, here's my objection to the Carolina Panthers having the best free agency to this point. I love Devin Lloyd. I was hoping he was the choice for Washington. I feel like he was slightly overpaid giving linebacker market. Um, I think he makes a difference. But let's look at Jalen Phillips and where he is good and where he is not. He is good when he is on the football field. Mind you, in college, he was almost forced to medically retire for concussions. And he has played only 67% of the NFL games that he has been eligible for. You can only be good. The best ability is availability. And if you are not available, then I think the Panthers overpaid for high upside but high risk.
Absolutely, I agree.
I I think the Ravens did the same thing with Trey Hendrickson simply because he doesn't get hurt like Jalen Phillips does, but he does have age. And
Right.
31 is whenever you start to see the defensive lineman legs kind of not work like they used to. That's huge. You obviously have outliers. You have dudes who perform well in their 30s. Um, but I think if you take basically whole seasons off and you stop being the record that you are the season before, then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot, especially at the age that Trey Hendrickson is.
Right.
But that is my objection to ESPN's list. Not saying the Kansas City Chiefs didn't have a fantastic first week of free agency. Kenneth Walker was hands down the best player available in free agency. He went and he went fast. But my top five: Titans, Raiders, Commanders, Jets, and Steelers.
Absolutely, dude. And I mean, I can't argue. They went out with a plan and they executed. Um, Now I don't know what the ESPN is going off of. I mean, I read everything that I have available to me. So unless they're going off of who picked the best player available, who I don't know. I'm not sure. But I can tell you that out of any of those people on that screen, the five that you just named should be there. At least somewhere. Even if it's one or two, but that none of those teams are there. None of those teams even showed up on that list. And I don't know, man. I just feel like something's being lost in translation there. I don't know. Like again, I don't know if they're just going off of, oh, this guy is the best available. They picked that guy. I have no idea.
Let's. It looks like if I'm reading the algorithm correctly of the best signing and the most underrated signing, it looks like by rank, the teams are listed alphabetically. So this is not their particular order.
Right.
But it looks like their rank is based off of where their top and underrated free agent signings were on ESPN's 100.
Okay.
That's what it looks like to me. However, if you look at impact, and I will pull up my Pro Football Focus if I need to. If you look at impact players, then the five that I mentioned, the five that you agree with, had the better free agency. The only team on my top five that is in this list is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right. Yep. I mean, like you said, I think if you're going to do a top five, your top 100 shouldn't really matter because, again, it should matter how much of an impact the free agency did on that team. And I'm biased, not biased. You can't deny that the Commanders belong on that list. They set out to do one thing: get younger, get better, get faster, get stronger, and they did it. And I think the players we have, with the experience they have done that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, let's see here. One quick thing that I want to touch on. Another team that had a sleeper good. Uh, it's with the trade for David Montgomery, with some of the under the radar signings like Reed Blankenship from the Eagles. I like what the Texans have done as well. We're not going to get into details on that. We can do that on another episode, but I think the Texans also honorable mention for that top five list.
Absolutely. And my friend, to conclude the episode, is there anything that you want to talk about?
I would like to say that the best available players, there are a few that I see that would really fit well with the Commanders. I like the prospect of a Christian Kirk or a Jawan Jennings signing in Washington because you can rely on those guys to be a solid two if the Brandon Ayuk situation does not come to fruition. Obviously, San Francisco, John Lynch in that front office, they hold the cards in that position, that situation. Those guys, they have made their appeal that they will release Brandon Ayuk at some point in time this offseason. They can do that all the way through the 1st of June. They have no pressure. They have also made mention that the possibility they may hang on to Brandon Ayuk and try to deal him at the draft. Now, either way, if you ask me, whether you deal him or you don't, whether you deal him or whether you cut him, you eat his salary cap as it is. You eat that dead cap if he is on your roster past April 1st. That is as simple as it gets. So, do they make Washington pony up a third round pick? Do they make Washington pony up a fifth round pick? Do they make Washington pony up a player and one of those late round picks to land Brandon Ayuk versus releasing him into free agency? And do they play hardball and force his 4 million or his 4 year $120-ish million deal onto another team? That's why I feel Washington has to still be aggressive in the wide receiver market, especially for guys that are left. And I think if you want to be able to play the best player available game at the NFL draft, you go get a guy like Martin Emerson, who is a sneaky good name, plays good football, would fit really well as an outside guy in Durante Jones' scheme.
Absolutely, and I'm leaning more towards picking Brandon Ayuk, as long as, like you said, it's in the 49ers' hands. But I wouldn't mind giving, a fifth for him, a fourth for him. Hopefully, it doesn't come down to that because draft capital is exactly that, draft capital. I don't want to have to give a player for it. So it's such a win lose situation because we're gonna lose something either way, and I'm hoping they just kind of release him. That way, we can just throw some money at him and call it good. So we still have $65 million to play with. So, I would rather throw money at him than throw a pick or a body away. And he's only 27 years old. He turns 28 in 3 days. So he's not old. He's not football old yet. Um, he's not in his prime, but again, he's it. The chemistry with him and Jaden is going to be strong. So yeah, I think he would be a great wide receiver too. Love my boy Terry.
Here's
So
here's my and then we can close the show. Here is my take on Brandon Ayuk as a potential wide receiver suitor for the Washington Commanders. Brandon Ayuk has some of the nastiest route breaks and head fakes in the NFL. Watch the tape. His separation was at an all-time high. His last full season in 2024. The few games he played in 2025 before he decided to throw $30 million away. Um, his routes are crisp. They're clean. He has really good feet. He has really good hands. His actions off the field have been classified as detrimental. Now, here's where I think it's buyer beware. Um, I was reading that the 49ers, now this is obviously hypothesized. I don't think John Lynch makes bad deals. That's how Adam Peters has learned to run the front office of the Washington Commanders as well as he has. I think that there's a possibility that he got cold feet about paying Ayuk all of that money, given the way that he was acting. I think he could have simply released him last year, let him come play for the Commanders. They threw the bag at him. There was obviously still some animosity. As GM Adam Peters would have to look at this is, does he do the same thing to my organization if we bring him in? That's why I don't think they trade for him and take on $100 million contract. That's why I think if the San Francisco 49ers release Brandon Ayuk and he comes to Washington on a 1 year prove it deal, 6, 7, 8, maybe $9 million, heavy incentive laden. We need you to meet these criteria. We need you to check these boxes, and then we'll talk long term contract. And here's the thing about Brandon Ayuk as well. If he meets the criteria, if he checks the boxes, he is not just a viable number two, he is a viable 1A. He has the ability to play in the X spot. He has the ability to be Terry McLaurin if something does happen. We never wish that. We love 17 around here.
absolutely.
Um, but if it is so much more formidable of an offense if you have two number ones. And with Brandon Ayuk on the Washington Commanders, they have two number ones. Here's to hoping that it is a release before the draft, that they are not trying to pony up some capital for him. I think that is also going against what they have stated their intentions are. Feels very Baltimore Ravens esque. Now, obviously, they hold the keys to the kingdom. They can eat the $32 million or whatever it would be for his salary. Um, but that's dragging it out way longer than it has to go.
Right.
I think I think the signing of Mike Evans spells the end of Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. How does it come about? We're all in for the ride to see. But I think it ultimately does end up with him in Washington, whether that's through the draft and Adam Peters has to pony up a fifth round pick. It automatically eliminates the need to draft a wide receiver if you get BA,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a full complement of picks going into next year's draft, which next year's draft is so much deeper at other positions.
Right.
I think I think as deep as this year's draft is, you can get a viable number 3 wide receiver in the third round. There's just so many dudes in this draft.
Right.
But it's buyer beware with Brandon Ayuk, and that's kind of the big thing. I don't think that Washington wants to trade for him for that reason, and I think they would rather sign him to a 1-year prove it deal.
Right. And I mean, we talked earlier when I was talking about Marshawn Lattimore. I do not like guys who just, I have to worry about off the field antics. I'm just not a big fan of those. If you're going to come play football for the Commanders, be professional. It's a professional thing. You are a professional athlete. You have worked your entire life to be to this point. There's no reason to throw it all away because you want to run your mouth or you want to do a gun charge or just anything stupid. I don't agree with acting like that. Um, I'm not a professional by any account, and I don't act like that. So maybe it's just that I'm biased, and I think you should act a certain way as a professional. Now, obviously, on the field banter, sure, that's football. I want to see you go out and hit that guy harder. You should be trying to tear each other's heads off. Football is not meant to be a soft sport, but I think off the field antics should stop. You're a professional, act like it. Stop going 100 miles an hour in a 35. That's dumb. Don't do dumb stuff. You're making millions and millions of dollars to play a sport. Like I don't know.
Yes.
But it's just to me, you just, and that's not even just for the Commanders. That's for every team. It should be a normal expectation for those guys. So anyhow, if that is everything you have to um, talk on, I'll ask you one final question. Who do you think the Commanders should grab at number 7?
So I will give you Commander's Twitter answer, and then I will give you my not so professional opinion on the matter. Commander's Twitter will tell you that they want Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame, at number 7. Here's the thing with Jeremiah Love, he's not making it past the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, as I alluded to with their fantastic offseason to this point, they are now a stacked roster. They have one of two choices to make. That is Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. I don't think they go that way. It feels like a reach at 4. I have him in the early teens as a draft pick, or Jeremiah Love because Tony Pollard climbing in age, no true number 1 back on that roster. Jeremiah Love is a playmaker. Commanders Twitter will tell you that they want Jeremiah Love. I like Jeremiah Love. My answer is Caleb Downs. That completely eliminates the need for Will Harris or Percy Butler or Quan Martin to see the field. I think that Durante Jones sees something in Quan. Maybe he's a nickel corner. Maybe he's a depth piece. So maybe they don't take Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs to me is the best defensive player in the NFL draft. He may be the best overall player in the NFL draft, period. And that's above Fernando Mendoza, who is hands down going number 1 to the Oakland Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders. Old habits die hard, you know. However, the logical thing, is for a potential team like the Rams, who are in a win now situation, to offer up some draft capital to trade up from 13 to 7 with the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders should absolutely take a trade, hypothetically, if it includes the 13th overall pick and a few, like let's say a third and a fourth. It's absolutely viable for them to trade back to 13 and still nab what I believe to be the most NFL ready wide receiver prospect in this year's draft, Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. And I'll tell you why. The Arizona State connection between potentially Brandon Ayuk, Rashad White, Jaden Daniels. That to me is an ideal scenario. You pad the wide receiver room. You get a proven playmaker. A lot of people will tell you that his health billables are undue, but in my not so professional opinion, and former NFL wide receiver Des Bryant and Chad Johnson themselves have said he is the most NFL ready wide receiver in the draft. You get a playmaker like Jordan Tyson, and the offense will follow suit.
Absolutely, and we also will get a young guy who can be there, like basically another Terry McLaurin who sits there through his whole career. So,
Absolutely.
well, you guys, that is gonna do it for this edition of Off the Bench with Scotty and Corey. My friend, it has been a great episode. Um, I love doing these.
As
It's
always.
it's 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 always a blast. The research, the banter, the back and forth. Guys, if you haven't yet, we are on all major podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, you name it. We're there. We are on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram will be set up shortly, I believe, if it's not already. And go follow those things. Stay up to date with us. We also have Twitter. So anything we know, we will be posting. Yeah, just go watch those accounts closely. Now, if you guys wouldn't mind, share this to your friends, your family, everybody you care about, because we're gonna blow up and we're gonna blow up big. So, anyhow, my friend, do you have anything to say?
It's always good to sit in the seat with you, my brother. It's fantastic to see you. I'm glad we're doing this. Um, Stay tuned, folks. Every Tuesday and Saturday, you get us. We'll be doing weekend updates on Tuesday, the latter half of the week on Saturday, and this will carry on through the NFL draft. This will carry on from the NFL draft to OTAs and minicamps, and then from OTAs and minicamps to the start of the season. So as we know it, you guys will know it. Again, what Corey said, make sure you're following the socials. So if something breaks, we can give you a quick snapshot and a little something to look forward to on the next episode of Off the Bench with Scotty and Corey.
Thank you guys so much for listening, so much for watching. We will see you guys in the next one. I'm Corey. That is Scotty. And we are signing off.